Once again, good morning. I was saying that question document examination is used to determine if a document is genuine or fake, or to know the source of a document, to confirm if a particular person is the originator of a document or not, or perhaps the document is from an office or not, and many things like that. But handwritten analysis is a subset of question document examination. And I said that handwritten analysis is a forensic handwritten examination that is a pattern-based science, that examines significant repeated handwritten characteristics in question document or question written. What we mean by question written or question document is when we are suspicious of the source of a document. Such a document is a question document or a question written. For example, a handwritten note found at the crime scene of a homicide case. If some people, maybe relative of the deceased, now come up with allegation that our father couldn't have committed suicide, probably something is wrong. So such kind of handwritten note, which is the suicide note, can be subjected to a forensic analysis that will reveal whether truly the man who alleged to have committed suicide truly wrote it. Now, the forensic handwritten examination or forensic handwritten analysis is a subset of question document examination. It's a subset of question document examination, and it is totally different from graphology. Graphology analyzes physical characteristics and patterns in the handwritten to evaluate personality traits. That is, graphology will tell you that the person who wrote this thing probably is bold. We look at something and say, yeah, this man has a kind of criminal tendencies. But handwritten analysis, forensic handwritten analysis is totally different from that. What we use forensic handwritten analysis to do is to confirm that a letter, an handwritten belong to a particular person, or to eliminate the suspect that is not the one who wrote it. And I will go to a law of individuality, so as to buttress my point, so that we can understand how this thing works very well. The science of question document examination rely heavily on the law of individuality. According to Paul Clark, every individual being, natural or artificial, has a unique characteristics which is not duplicated in any other form. That is, you are unique. Everything, fingerprint, your voice, footprint, and so on and so forth. For instance, no two fingerprints are the same. No two DNA of two people are the same except in identical twins. No two sets of dentitions are similar. So this law of individuality has been a building block of forensic science, and it applies also to our handwriting. This handwriting has a set of characteristics that in one person you cannot find the same thing in another. And these characteristics can be divided into two: the individual characteristics and class characteristics. The individual characteristics is that kind of peculiarity that creeps into every writer's handwritten as they stylize their written, modifying it away from how they were taught in primary school. When we were in primary school, each one of us were taught to write in a certain way, to hold our pen in a certain way, to write on the line in a certain way, But as soon as we master the art of writing, then we begin to deviate from it, modify it by ourselves, and stylize our writing until you come to a stage whereby you have a set of characteristics, a set of modification, a set of features in those handwritten that can never, the characteristics in one person can never be found only in another person. And this also be, okay, before I go to that one, also we have class characteristics. This is the peculiarities in handwriting that is commonly found in a group of people. For instance, professionals such as medical doctors, accountants, and so on and so forth. There are some things you can see in their strong enough to identify the writer. The one that is strong, you know, the strong identification will come from individual characteristics. So, and these individual characteristics, they are the range of writing or master pattern. We call it the range of writing or master pattern. Those are the things that depict how the outlook of your letters, like the way you write A will be different from the way your twin sister or your twin brother will write A. Even though you are trained by the same teacher, you grew up in the same environment, yet your handwriting will be totally different. So this range of writing are divided into three. We have form, we have movement, and spatial relationship. But we talk about that one as we move on. Now let's come to something that I want us to take note very well. There are about 9 scientific truths about handwriting. 9 scientific truths about handwriting. But because of our time, I will just mention like 3 or 4 of them. Then maybe in my paper, you will see others. The first truth is this. No two people write exactly the same way. No two people write exactly the same way. Number 2, written habits, like habit of speech, become so automatic and unconscious that even by the most strenuous effort, it is almost impossible to change them. Number 3, individual characteristics that are unique to a particular writer exist in every person's handwriting, distinguished from every other handwriting. Then number 4, a person's handwriting change over the course of their lifetime. All these scientific truths, they are very vital when you are analyzing handwriting of a particular person. Now, because of our time, I wanted to share my screen because of my network that is very low, it will affect the upload, so I have to leave it. Now, in examining a suicide note, there are some things we must do. The first thing is to have a set of instruments, and this set of instruments or tools, I will just mention like 2 or 3 of them, the ones that are very, very important. Now, the first one is magnifying lens. Magnifying lens or binocular microscope. At times you may need the two, but there are cases where you just need the magnifying lens alone. Then you need a metric ruler. You need a scanner and computer system, Then at times, not always, you may need an infrared spectroscope. Now, apart from the tools, the next thing that you need is what we call standard, a known written standard, or we at times we call it exemplars. Standard or exemplar is a known written of the deceased. The one is dead. We have to go and look for his or her existing handwritten. Let me say this. There are 2 types of standard. In a case where you have somebody that is alive and you want to analyze his handwriting, you need to make a request from him. But in this case, the man is dead. You can't tell a dead man to write. So what we need to do is to go to some of the places where you can see his handwriting. For example, we can go to his diary. We can go to his file in the office. If he's somebody that is working, we can go to application that he wrote some time ago. Also, if he's a student, you can go to his school and get his or her school and get some of the thing that he has filled, form that he has filled, or some of those notes that he has written. If he's a religious person, you go to some of religious religious centers and look at those forms that he or she filled, or where he signed, when he signed into that religious center. Those things, you pick them and you use them for your standard. So as I said, standard or exemplar is no written, the no written of the deceased. So those two things are very important. The standard and the tool that you are going to use. And of course, your good eyes. You must not be somebody that cannot see, that has a color blindness. So now let's move forward. Another thing we consider is whether the suicide note is of good quality. That is, what is written there is not something. It's not that maybe you have water that has splashed over 2/3 of it, or maybe half of it, and you cannot see some other things there. But it must be of good quality, as it must not be something that has been photocopied several times before they gave it to you. So now, after taking note of it, that the quality of that suicide note is good, that is, you can see everything that is written there, then you move further to ask some question. You ask for the condition of the deceased immediately before they found out that he is dead. Maybe the man had been sick, or on hard drug, or an alcoholic. So you try to take note of this. You may use a form to collect all this. Then you begin to select from the existing standard. You select from the existing standard. You have to, when you are comparing two handwritten notes, handwritten, when you are comparing them, there are some things that cannot be done. That is, you cannot compare something like A to Z. You have to compare A to A, for example. For example, you compare Olomu Emmanuel. And Olomu Emmanuel cannot be compared to Asasas, because they don't have letters in them that are related. So you compare things that are related, and then you compare cursive to cursive, then handprint to handprint, and so on and so forth. Now let's leave that one. Let's go to analysis. How do we analyze it after you have gotten our tools ready, the information about the disease, and also the standard? This is what we do. That time I talk about range of written, which I divided into three. That is the form, the spatial relationship, and movement. So I will try to analyze them one by one, and I explain them one by one. I'm very sorry. It's supposed to have been. I supposed to have brought out my share my screen with you so that I can see some things very clearly from the screen. But I will try my best to pass the information across to you. During comparison, form, that is the shape of the letters, and method of construction is of the handwritten letters in the suicide note is compared to the standard given. We compare the two together. In fact, the first thing to do is that after you might have studied the questioned document, that is question written, the one that was found in at the crime scene. After you might have studied, then you also study the standard. Then you begin to pick one by one. Then you pick the letters. You separate the letters. You separate them, and you pick some things, like, for example, how the A is being constructed, how O is being constructed, how L is being constructed. Some people construct their A, for example, from the left, down, from the left up, then down again, and have a kind of and still while the pen is still on paper, they put the cross over it, a line over it. While some people will leave their pen when they are constructing such kind of A. So the way they construct it, you take note of it. And also some things like a position of eye dots on eye. Some put their eye dot in front of the eye, like when you put a cap in front, or some at the back, as if you are putting a cap at the back of your head, and some put their own in at the middle. All this is done unconsciously. It's done unconsciously, but it's always constant. It's something that every writer put into their writing, but they said they didn't know. They don't take note of it, and it's always constant in whatever they write. Also, you take note of some things like the position of T-bar. So all these things will differentiate the form, that is the design of the letter, the construction of the letter. Then let's move, because of our time, let's move to movement. Movement includes the direction, the slant, the rhythm, the line quality, the speed and pressure pattern. Slant, for example, which is the direction in which the written lanes. You see some people when they write, their letters move forward as like when somebody is bending. Whereas some people, their letters always stand right, as if when the military people are marching. And some, their own bend backward, as if they are leaning on a chair. So all these things, you have to take note of them, and you compare them. Then rhythm is the way the letters are moving away from the baseline, that is the line, moving up and trying to move back to the baseline. By the time you look at two handwriting of two different people, you may not be able to see the difference. But when you put subject them to examination under under my magnifying lens or under the microscope, then you see clearly. It will be very clear to you. So also the line quality. The line quality is how smooth the line. The way you grab our pen when we write are not the same. Some exert much pressure. So the pressure will determine the line quality and the speed that you write. When you are writing fastly, your line quality increases. But you are writing slowly, it decreases. All these things are determinant of what we use to confirm whether somebody originates a document or not, or perhaps this is from somebody or it's not from him. In fact, movement is a very strong identification to know that somebody is the writer or is not the writer, to eliminate or to confirm that somebody is the writer. Now, let's move forward because of our time. Another thing we consider is spatial relationships. Spatial relationship is includes size, the size of your letters, like the size. Some people write with big letters, while some write with medium size, while some write with very small letters. Then the proportions of your letter, when you try to squeeze into a place that is very small, into a writing, into a paper, that is space that is very small, you are trying to manage the space. The proportion of the letter is always still the same. So you try to measure the proportion, you measure the size of the letter, the spacing between letters and the spacing between words, and the spacing also between lines, between first line and the next one. So you use instruments such as ruler and reticle to do all this. Now, all these things are determinant of whether that written note, that suicide note, that alleged suicide note was truly written by the deceased, or a murderer wrote it after the demise, maybe during or after the demise of that person, but he has killed that person, he murdered him, and then he wrote that letter so as to make a murder case to look like a suicide case. Now, any fundamental or unexplainable handwritten characteristics that is not part of the master pattern indicate a different writer. When you see things like the quality rating, the quality line that are not the same, slants that are not the same, redeem that are not the same, all these things combined together, not just only one thing, but all these things combined together, will indicate that such a letter or written note, such a suicide note, alleged suicide note, was not written by the deceased or the suspect. A fundamental difference is an irreconcilable difference. That is, when all those characteristics that you have considered, when you cannot find them in the standard, then you can say these two are written by different two people. They are from different sources. But there are some factors that can affect the handwritten examination or handwritten analysis. The first one is inadequate quantity or quality of the standard. When you don't have enough standard, because the science of question document or the science of handwritten examination relies heavily on comparison. We compare two things together, like many other branch of forensic. So we compare the known written with the unknown written. We compare the two. So if there's no enough standard or exception to be used, then it will affect it. It will affect the work of the question of the examiner. Another thing, maybe we were able to lay our hand on the samples or the exemplars or the standard that this disease has written several years back. So, for example, maybe it's a student or a final year student, and what we were able to lay hand is those documents that he or she created while she was still in year one. That might have changed because some people might have taken to drug or alcoholism. So between that period, because of the fact that our nurse, people that have been living on drug, that habit, that drug might have affected his nurse, that will not allow his handwriting to be the same again. In conclusion, after forensic examination of a suicide note, it can be determined if an alleged suicide case is not a murder case. Thank you for listening.